came down to breakfast the next morning after 8 hours of blessed, dreamless sleep. Found Sir Walter decoding a telegram in the midst of muffins and marmalade. The first rosary of yesterday seemed a thought torn.
I had a busy hour on the telephone after you went to bed. I got my chief to speak to the First Lord and the Secretary for War, and they're bringing Roy over a day sooner. Now, this wire clinches it. He'll be in London at 5. Odd that the code word for a sous chef d'etat major general should be porker.
He directed me to the hot dishes and my...
Not that I think it'll do much good. If your friends were clever enough to find out the first arrangement, they're clever enough to discover the change. I would give my head to know where the leak is. We believed there were only 5 men in England who knew about Royer's visit, and you may be certain there were fewer in France, for they manage these things better there.
Roy dined with my chief and then came to my house before people would see him. With a takeover from the Admiral, myself, Sir Arthur Drew, and General Winstanley. At my house, he would read a certain document. He had a certain document from Whittaker, and after that, he would be motored to Portsmouth, where a destroyer would take him to Havre. He would never be left unattended for a moment till he is safe on French soil. Same with Whittaker till he meets Royer.
That is the best we can do, and it's hard to see how there can be any miscarriage. But I don't mind admitting that I'm horribly nervous. This murder of Karolides will play the deuce in the chancelleries of Europe. Hannay, can you drive a car?
Why, yes.
Well, you'll be my chauffeur today and wear Hudson's rig. You're about his size. You have a hand in this business, and we're taking no risks. There are desperate men against us who will not respect the country retreat of an overworked official.
It was a southwestward June morning with a promise of solitude later, but it was delicious enough swinging through the little towns with their freshly watered streets and past the summer gardens of the teamed valleys. I landed Sir Walter at his house in Queen's End Gate, punctually by 11:30. The first thing he did was take me round to Scotland Yard. There we saw a slim gentleman with a David lawyer's face.
McGillivray, I've brought you the Portland Place murderer.
The reply was a wry smile.
It would have been a welcome present to Bullivant. This, I presume, is Mr. Richard Hannay, who for some days greatly interested my department.
Mr. Hannay will interest it again. He has much to tell you, but not today. For certain grave reasons, his tale must wait for 4 hours. Then, I can promise you, you will be entertained and possibly edified. I want you to assure Mr. Hannay that he will suffer no further inconvenience.
This assurance was promptly given.
You can take up your life where you left off. Your flat, which probably you no longer wish to occupy, is waiting for you. And your man is still there. As you were never publicly accused, we considered that there was no need of a public exculpation. But on that, of course, you must please yourself.
McGillivray, we may want your assistance later on. Come and see me tomorrow, Hannay. I needn't tell you to keep deadly quiet. If I were you, I would go to bed, for you must have considerable arrears of sleep to overtake. You'd better lie low, for if one of your Black Stone friends saw you, there might be trouble.
Of course.
It was very pleasant to be a free man, able to go where I wanted. I had only been a month under the ban of the law, never quite enough for me, yet I felt curiously at the loose end. I felt that great things, tremendous things were happening, or about to happen, and I, who was the cogwheel of the whole business, was out of it. I didn't feel like going back to my flat. That had to be faced sometime, but I had still sufficient money, I thought. I would put it off till next morning and go to a hotel for the night. I went to the Sargent Lounge, ordered very good lunch, and then smoked the best cigar the house could provide. But I was still feeling nervous. When I saw anyone looked at me in the lounge, I grew fire and wondered if they were thinking about the murder. I took a taxi and drove miles away up into North London, back through fields and lines of billet and terraces, and then slums and mean streets, and it took me pretty nearly 2 hours. I dined at a restaurant in Dillman Street. I was no longer hungry, and let several courses pass untasted. The best part of a bottle of Burgundy, but it did nothing to chill me, and a downward restlessness had taken possession of me. Though I was a very ordinary fellow, with no particular brains, and yet I was convinced that somehow I would need to help this business through, that without me it would all go to blazes. I told myself it was still too conceit that 4 or 5 of the lovely people living with all the might of the British Empire at their back had the job in hand. Yet I couldn't be convinced. It seemed as if a voice was the afternoon before I would never speak again. The upshot was that, about 9:30, I made up my mind to go to Queen Anne's Gate. It was like that would not be admitted, but it would ease my consciousness to try. On my way, I passed a group of young men. They were in evening dresses, had been dining sometimes, and were going on to a music hall. One of them was Marmaduke Jopley.
By God, the murderer! Here, you fellows hold him! That's Hannay, the man who did the Portland Place murder!
I was looking for trouble, but my ill temper made me afraid to do a height of Marmaid's infantile faith was more than I could bear.
What's going on here?
Oh, this man is the Portland Place murderer!
Damn it all! Make the fellows shut up! I advise you to leave me alone, Constable. Scotland Yard knows all about me, and you'll get a proper wigging if you interfere.
You've got to come along with me, young man. I saw you strike that gentleman cruel hard. You began it too, for he wasn't doing nothing. I've seen you. You best go quietly, or I'll have to fix you up. Watch him! Watch him! Right, come back here!
I had a very fair turn of speed, and that night I had wings. In the jiffy, I was in Pall Mall and it turned down St. John Street. There were few people about, and no one tried to stop me. I was stalking all honking to Queen Anne's Gate.
I must see Sir Walter. My business is desperately important.
The butler was a great man. Moving a muzzle, he held the door open and then set it
Sir
behind
Walter
him.
is engaged, sir, and I have orders to admit no one. Perhaps you will wait.
See here. There's trouble about, and I'm in it. But Sir Walter knows, and I'm working for him. If anyone comes and asks if I'm here, tell him a lie.
I was seated and told to wait. Turned to the door and with a face like a graven knave waited to be questioned.
This is the house of Sir Walter Bullivant, and I am under the strictest orders not to let anyone, no matter who, interrupt his office.
I waited long till there came another ring at the bell. The bustle made no bones about admitting this new visitor. I recognized the first Sea Lord, the man, they say, that made the new British Navy. Passed my alcove and was ushered into a room at the back of the hall. Door opened, I could hear the sound of the low voices. It set and I was left alone again. For 20 minutes I sat there, wondering what I was to do next. Then the door of the back room opened and the first Sea Lord came out. He walked past me and in passing he glanced in my direction and for a second we looked each other in the face. I had never seen the great man before, and he had never seen me. But in that fraction of time something sprang into my eye and that something was recognition. I can't mistake it, it was a flicker, a spark of light, a minute's shade of difference. It only meant one thing and one thing only.
Lord Allowa's residence. How may I help you?
Is his lordship at home?
His lordship returned half an hour ago and has gone to bed. He's not very well tonight. Will you leave him a message, sir?
I knew it.
No one could be lost, so I must boldly to the door of that back room and enter without knocking.
And I feel reassured.
Sir Walter!
Gentlemen!
I was surprised his face looked up from a round table. There was Sir Walter and Drew the War Minister, whom I knew from his photograph. There was a slim elderly man who was probably Ridder, the Admiral official, and there was General Winstanley, conspicuous from the long scar on his forehead. Lastly, there was a short-stout man with an iron-gray mustache and bushy eyebrows. This must have been Walter.
This is Mr. Hannay, of whom I have spoken to you. I'm afraid, Hannay, this visit is ill-timed.
That remains to be seen, sir. But I think it may be in the nick of time. For God's sake, gentlemen, tell me who went out a minute ago.
Sir Walter's face brightened with anger.
Lord Allowa.
It was not. It was his living image, but it was not Lord Allowa. It was someone who recognized me, someone I have seen in the last month. He had scarcely left the doorstep when I rang up Lord Allowa's house and was told he had come in half an hour before and had gone to bed.
Who?
The Black Stone.
Nonsense.
Sat down in a chair so recently vacated and looked around at 5 badly scared gentlemen. Sir Walter got up and left the room while we looked blankly at the table. Came back in 10 minutes with a long face.
I have spoken to Allowa. Had him out of bed, very grumpy. He went straight home after Malross's dinner.
But it's madness.
Do you mean to tell me that that man came here and sat beside me for the best part of half an hour and that I didn't detect the imposture? Alloa must be out of his mind.
Are we getting back my coolness?
Don't you see the cleverness of it? You were too interested in other things to have any eyes. You took Lord Alloa for granted. If it had been anybody else, you might have looked more closely, but it was natural for him to be here, and that put you all to sleep.
Moya bent his wise brows on the assembly.
Young man is right. His psychology is good. Our enemies have not been foolish. I will tell you a tale. It happened many years ago in Senegal.
What happened?
I was enough of a hunter to know a true tale, a true yarn when I heard
I
it.
stuffed my fishing rod into his jaws, and I had a pistol. Also, my servants came presently with rifles. But he left his mark on me.
Held up a hand with like 3 fingers.
Consider. The mare had been dead more than an hour, and the brute had been patiently watching me ever since. I never saw the kill, for I was accustomed to the mare's fretting, and I never marked her absence, for my consciousness of her was only of something tawny, and the lion filled that part. If I could blunder thus, gentlemen, in a land where men's senses are keen, why should we busy, preoccupied urban folk not err also?
Sir Walter nodded. No one was ready to gainsay him.
Well, I suppose there is nothing for it but to change the plans.
Riddle was looking very glum.
Did you tell Lord Alloa what has happened? No? Well, I can't speak with absolute assurance, but I'm nearly certain we can't make any serious change, unless we alter the geography of England.
Ask and look around.
God, and we have not a rag of a clue.
Besides, there is the post. By this time, the news will be on its way.
No. You do not understand the habits of the spy. He receives personally his reward, and he delivers personally his intelligence. We in France know something of the breed. Now, there is still a chance, mes amis. These men must cross the sea, and there are ships to be searched and ports to be watched. Believe me, the need is desperate for both France and Britain.
I had a sudden inspiration.
Where is Scudder's book? Quick, man! I remember something in it.
What is it going to be?
39 steps. 39 steps. I counted them. High tide, 10:17 p.m. What relevance is all...
The almighty man was looking at me as if he thought I was going
Don't you
mad.
see, it's a clue. Scudder knew where these fellows laired. He knew where they were going to leave the country, though he kept the name to himself. Tomorrow was the day, and it was some place where high tide was at 10:17.
But they may have gone tonight.
Not they. They have their own snug, secret way, and they won't be hurried. I know Germans, and they're mad about working to a plan. Where the devil can I get a book of tide tables?
Richard brightened up.
It's a chance. Let's go over to the Admiralty.
We got in two of the waiting motor cars. So Walter went to Scotland Yard to mobilize McGilvery. A resonant cloak was unearthed, repeatedly fetched from the library, the ebony tide tables. I sat at the desk and the others stood round, for somehow or other I got a chance thoughts of this expedition, but it was no good. So far as I could see, 1017 might cover 50 places. We had to find some way of narrowing the possibilities. There must be some way of reading this riddle. What does Scudder mean by steps? If it were dark steps, I mentioned the number. Must be some place with several staircases and one marked out from the other by having 39 steps. Why was high tide so important? It might be some little harbor or no harbor at all. There were no sets of staircases on any harbor that I had ever seen. Would be a bit of open coast. He's a man in a hurry. He wants a speedy and secret passes. They wouldn't travel by a big boat from regular harbor. There is no regular steamer sailing at that hour. I must put myself in the enemy's shoes. I wouldn't leave from the Channel or the West Coast. Scotland is too far. It's a try for Ostend or Antwerp or Rotterdam. It's a set sail from somewhere on the East Coast between Como and Dover. It's all guesswork. I am no kind of Sherlock, but I do have a feeling about all of this. It's running out. Time is running out. I set out all my conclusions on a bit of Admiralty paper. Places in places where there are several sets of stairs. One that matters distinctly by having 39 steps, full tide at 1017. Leaving so only possible at full tide. Ships, not dock steps, and so placed probably not harbor. No regular might seem at 1017, means the transport must be a tramp, unlikely yacht or fishing boat. Place not harbor but open coast, but small, tiny yacht or lance. Place somewhere on the east coast between Como and Dover. Lieutenant joined it and President McGilvery arrived. Set out instructions to watch the ports and railway station for the three men who wanted to describe to Sir Walter. No, not that he or anybody else thought that would do much good.
Here's the most I can make of it. We have got to find a place where there are several staircases down to the beach, one of which has 39 steps. I think it's a piece of open coast with biggish cliffs somewhere between the Wash and the Channel. Also, it's a place where full tide is at 10:17 tomorrow night.
Then an idea struck me.
Is there no inspector of Coast Guards or some fellow like that knows the East Coast?
Why, yes, there is. He lives in Clapham. Let me get him now.
He went off in a car to fetch him. I lit a pipe and went over the whole thing again till my brain grew weary. About 1 in the morning, the Coast Guard men arrived. He was a fine old fellow with the look of a naval officer and was definitely respectful to the company.
This is the chap.
Good evening, gentlemen.
We want you to tell us the places you know on the East Coast where there are cliffs and where several sets of steps run down to the beach.
What kind of steps do you mean, sir? There are plenty of places with roads cut down through the cliffs, and most roads have a step or two in them. Or do you mean regular staircases, all steps, so to speak?
But he'll look towards me.
We mean regular staircases.
He reflected a minute or two.
I don't know that I can think of any. Wait a second. There's a place in Norfolk, Brattlesham, beside a golf course, where there are a couple of staircases to let the gentleman get a lost ball.
That's not it.
Then there are plenty of marine parades, if that's what you mean. Every seaside resort has them.
It's got to be more retired than that.
Well, gentlemen, I can't think of anywhere else. Of course, there's the Rough.
What's that?
The big chalk headland in Kent, close to Bradgate. It's got a lot of villas on the top, and some of the houses have staircases down to a private beach. It's a very high-toned sort of place, and the residents there like to keep by themselves.
We're on the scent at last. How can I find out what is the tide at the Rough?
I can tell you that, sir. I once was let a house there in this very month, and I used to go out at night to the deep-sea fishing. The tide's 10 minutes before Bradgate.
Close the book and look round at the company.
If one of those staircases has 39 steps, we have solved the mystery, gentlemen. I want the loan of your car, Sir Walter, and a map of the roads.
Of course.
If Mr. McGillivray will spare me 10 minutes, yes, I think we can prepare something for tomorrow.
Good. I, for one, am content to leave the matter in Mr. Hannay's hands.
It was ridiculous of me to take charge of the business like this, but it didn't seem to mind. And after all, I have been in the cell from the start. Besides, I was used to rough jaws, and these eminent gentlemen were too clever not to see it. By 3:30 that morning, I was tearing past the moonlit headquarters of Kent, and McGillivray's best man scarfed on the seat beside me. A pink and blue June morning found me at Bradgate looking for the Griffith Hotel over a smooth sea. The light sip on the clock sound seemed the size of a bellbuoy a couple of miles further south and much nearer the shore of small destroyer was anchored. Scarf had been in the Navy and knew the boat. He told me her name and her commander, so I set off a wire to Sir Walter. The light sip on the cork sound seems the size of a bellboy. After breakfast, Scarf got a house agent key for the gates of the staircases on the Rough. Walked with him along the sands and sat down in a nook of the cliffs while he investigated the half-dozen of them. Didn't want to be seen, but the place at this hour was quite deserted, and all the time I was on that beach I saw nothing but the seagulls. It took him more than an hour to do the job. Everything depended on my guess proving right. You were allowed the number of steps in the different stairs.
34, 35, 42, 47, and 21, where the cliffs get lower. Oh, and 39.
Scaife, we have them.
We hurried back to the town and sent a wire to McGilvery. I wanted half a dozen men, and I directed them to divide themselves among different specific hotels. The Scaife set out to prospect the houses at the head of the 29 steps. Came back with news that both puzzled and reassured me. The house was called Telford Glass and belonged to an old gentleman called Appleton, a retired stockbroker. That was as it said. Only 3 servants were kept, a cook, a parlour maid, and a housemaid. The cook was not the gossiping kind, and he pretty soon shut the door in his face, but Scott said positively he knew nothing. They were just the sort that you would find in a respectable middle-class household. Mr. Appleton was there a good deal in the summertime and was in residence now, has been for the better part of a week. Scaife could pick up very little information about him, except that he was a decent young fellow, paid his bills regularly, and was always good for a fiver for a local charity. Next door there was a new house building which would give good cover for observation, and the builder on the other side was to let, and its gardener was rough and scruffy. About Scaife starboard, and before lunch went for a walk along the rough. I kept well behind the row of builders and found a good observation point on the edge of the golf course. I observed someone leave the house and saunter along the cliff. Tall was an old man wearing white flannel trousers, a loosey jacket, and a straw hat. He carried field glasses and a newspaper. He sat down in one of the iron seats and began to read. Sometimes he would lay down the paper and turn his glasses on the sea for a long time at the destroyer. I would remain for half an hour till he got up and went back to his house for luncheon, when I returned to the hotel for mine. The distant and commonplace drawing was not what I expected. That might be the bald or the earth of that horrible moonlit farm, or it might not. It was exactly the kind of satisfied old bird you would find in every forward and every holiday place. If you wanted a type of the perfectly harmless person, you'll probably pitch on that. After lunch I perked up, for I saw the thing I was hoped for and I dreaded to miss. His name was the Aerodyne. Gabe said she was a flatboat for her build and that she was pretty heavily engineered. Scape and I went down to the harbour and hired a boatman for an afternoon fishing. At 4 o'clock I made the boatman row us around the yacht. It lay like a delicate white bird, ready at a moment to flee. One of the men were polishing the brasswork. He spoke to him and got an answer in the soft dialect of Essex. Another hand that came along past me today in an unspeakable ignorant stunt. Our boatman had an argument with one of them about the weather, and for a few minutes we lay otherwise close to the starboard bow. But suddenly disregarded us and bent their heads to their work as an officer came along the deck. He was a pleasant, clean-looking young fellow, and he had put a question to us about our fishing in very good humor. But there could be no doubt about him. His clothes curved towards it, and the cut of his undercut and ties never came out of England. In the hotel I met with the commander of the destroyer, to whom Scaff introduced me, and with whom I had few words. Then I thought I would put in an hour or two watching Telford Glass. They played with tremendous zest, like two city gents wanted hard exercise to open their pores. They shouted and laughed and stopped for drinks when a maid brought out 2 tankards on a salver. You couldn't conceive a more innocent spectacle. I rubbed my eyes and asked myself if I was not the most immortal fool on earth. Mystery and darkness had hung about the men who hunted me over the Scots moor in aeroplanes and motor cars, and notably about that infernal aquarium. It was easy enough to connect those folks with the knife that pinned Scudder to the floor and with fell disguised on the word peace, but here were 2 guileless citizens taking their encouraged exercise and soon about to go indoors for a humdrum dinner, where they would talk of marketplace prices and the last cricket scores. The thing that worried me was the reflection that my enemies knew that I had got my knowledge from Scudder, and it was Scudder who had given me the clue to this place. If they knew that Scudder had this clue, would they not be certain to change their plans? I talked confidently last night about Germans always sticking to a scheme, but if they have any suspicion that I was on their track, they will be fools not to cover it. I had been making a net to catch balsams and falcons, and lo and behold, 2 plump fuzzes had blundered into it. Presently a 3rd figure arrived, a young man on a bicycle. He was welcomed joyously by the players.
You all right there, Percy?
Yes, you're looking a little hot under the collar.
I've got into a proper lather. This'll bring down my weight and my handicap, Bob. I'll take you on tomorrow and give you a stroke a hole.
They all went into the house and left me feeling a pious idiot. I would rather have walked into a den of Arcanists with his bowing handy or face a charging lion with a pop gun than at the happy home of sweet English human and tell them their game was up. But then I remember old Peter Pannier, who was the best scout I ever knew, and before he turned respectively, had been pretty often on the windy side of the law. He didn't want to discuss with me the question of disguises, and he had a theory which struck me at the time. Said, bearing about absolute certainties like fingerprints, more physical traits were very little used for identification if the fugitive really knew his business. The only thing that mattered was what Peter called atmosphere. Those staff didn't need to act, they were just turning a handle and passing to another life became as naturally to them as the first. Peter used to say that it was the big secret of all the famous criminals. This workplace gave me the first real comfort I'd had that day. Peter has been a wise old bird, and these fellows I was after all about to pick of the aviary. It was now getting on for 8 o'clock, and I went back and saw Spiff give him his instructions. I arranged with him how the place is named, and then I went for a walk, for I didn't feel up to any dinner. I took all my resolution to stroll toward Tuckfield Lodge. On the way, I got a piece of solid comfort from the sight of a greyhound that was swinging along at a nursemaids's heel. Reminded me of a dog I used to have in Rhodesia. I arrived once again at Telford Lodge. Shape men will be posted by now, but there was no sign of a soul.
Is, Mr. Appleton at home?
Yes, sir. Please, come in.
My plan has been to walk straight into the dining room and by sudden appeared walk into the man that thought at the start of recognition which would confirm my theory. When I found myself in all that neat hall at the place mastered me.
Who may I say is calling?
Richard Hannay.
If you could wait in the smoking room, I'll let Mr. Appleton know you're here.
Realizing my mistake, I pulled myself together and ran after the maid. But I was too late.
Mr. Hannay? Did you wish to see me?
I think we have met before, and I guess you know my business.
The light in the room was dim, but so far as I could see their faces, they played the part of mystification very well.
Maybe. I haven't a very good memory, but I'm afraid you must tell me your errand, sir, for I really don't know it.
Well then, I have come to tell you that the game's up.
All the time I seemed to myself to be talking pure
I have a
foolishness.
warrant for the arrest of you three gentlemen.
Arrest? Arrest? Good God, what for?
He looked very
For
soft.
the murder of Franklin Scudder in London on the 23rd day of last month.
I never heard the name before.
That was the Portland Place murder. I read about it. Good heavens. You must be mad, sir. Where do you come from?
Scotland Yard.
Though I hadn't enough confidence in me, I forced myself to play the game.
Don't get flustered, Uncle. It's all a ridiculous mistake. But these things happen sometimes, and we can easily set it right. It won't be hard to prove our innocence. I can show you that I was out the country on the 23rd of May, and Bob was in a nursing home. You were in London, but you can explain what you were doing.
Right, Percy. Of course, that's easy enough. The 23rd. That was the day after Agatha's wedding. Let me see, what was I doing? Came up in the morning from Woking and lunched at the club with Charlie Simons. Then, oh yes, I dined with the fishmongers. I remember, for the punch didn't agree with me and I was seedy next morning. Hang it all, there's the cigar box I brought back from the dinner.
After that, for a minute, there were utter silence. The old man was staring at the place and fumbling with a nut, the very motto of innocent bewilderment.
I think, sir, you will see you are mistaken. We want to assist the law like all Englishmen, and we don't want Scotland Yard to be making fools of themselves. That so, Uncle?
Certainly, Bob.
The odd fellow seemed to be recovering his voice.
Certainly. We'll do anything in our power to assist the authorities, but this is a bit too much. I can't get over it.
How Nellie will chuckle. She always said you would die of boredom because nothing ever happened to you. Now you've got it thick and strong.
It couldn't be acting. It was too confoundingly genuine.
Oh, yes, just think of it. What a story to tell at the club. Really, Mr. Hannay, I suppose I should be angry to show my innocence, but it's too funny. I almost forgive you the fright you gave me. You looked so glum. I thought I might have been walking in my sleep and killing people.
Covering my confusion, I got up, walked to the door, and flipped on the electric light. The sudden glare made them blink, and they stood standing, the three faces. I made nothing of it. One was old and bald, one was stout, one was dark and thin. Seemed exactly what they professed to be, and I couldn't to one of them. I could see nothing to connect them with the Mormon desperados.
Well, are you reassured by your scrutiny, sir?
Couldn't find a
I hope
word.
you'll find it consistent with your duty to drop this ridiculous business. I make no complaint, but you'll see how annoying it must be to respectable people.
Oh,
my head.
Lord. This is a bit too thick.
Do you propose to march us off to the police station? That might be the best way out of it, but I suppose you won't be content with the local branch. I have the right to ask to see your warrant, but I don't wish to cast any aspersions upon you. You're only doing your duty. But you'll admit, it's horribly awkward. What do you propose to do?
Moment I was very near damning myself for a fool and asking the pardon.
Meantime, I vote we have a game of bridge. It'll give Mr. Hannay time to think over things. And you know we've been wanting a fourth player. Do you play, sir?
Accepted as if it'd been an ordinary invitation at the club.
Yes, I play.
So I've memorized by the whole place, but the air of obvious innocence, not innocence merely, but frank honesty, bewilderment, and concern in the three faces. We went into the smoking room where a card table was set out, and I was offered things to smoke and drink. The three were talking eagerly, just the kind of slang talk you would hear in any golf club home. A mother cut of one figure, sitting there knitting my brows with my eyes wandering. My partner was the young dark one. I put a fair hair in a bridge, but I must have been ranked bad that night. They saw that it got me puzzled, and that put me more than ever at their ease. I loved looking at their faces, but they conveyed nothing to me. It was not that they looked different, they were different. Clung definitely to the word of Peter Panea. Then it happened. Moved, I remembered when I stood before him in the moonlit farm with the pictures of his sister behind me. The thought lifted from my brain and was looking at the three men before and after the recognition. The dark lean man, he was the murderer. Now I see, saw closely and regularly, where before I once only seen good humor. His knife had scuttered to the floor, and his gun had put the bullet in Carolina's. The plump man's features seemed to dismay and form again, and I still looked from he had in a face only 100 miles that he could assume when he was pleased. The chap must have been a superb actor. Perhaps he had not been Lord Aura the night before. Perhaps not. It didn't matter. I wonder if he was the fellow that first tacked Scudder and left his card on him. Scudder had said he lists imagine how the adoption of a lift might add terror. He was the pick of the lot. He was seal brain, icy cool, calculation as rooted as a steam hammer. Now that my eyes were open, I wondered where I had seen the benevolence. His jaw was like a chilled steel, and his eyes had the humidus of a bird. I'm playing, and every second a greater heat right up in my heart.
Bob, look at the time. You better think about catching your train. Bob's got to go to town tonight.
The voice rang now as false as hell. 2 o'clock, and it was nearly 10:30.
I'm afraid he must put off his journey.
Oh, damn. I thought you'd dropped that rot. I simply got to go. You can have my address, and I'll give you any security you like.
No, you must stay.
I'll go bail for my nephew. That ought to content you, Mr. Hannay.
The glocked at him, his eyelids fell like got hawk like hood with fear as stamped on my memory. Her strong arm gripped me round the waist, covering the pocket in which a man might be expected to carry a pistol.
Get your hands off me! Schnellflam! Das Boot! Das Boot!
I grabbed the old chap, and the room seemed to fill with figures. Started plump on car, but my eyes were all for the outer doors, where friends bed on the road toward the railed entrance to the beach stairs. One man followed him, but he had no chance. I stood stowing my hands on the old boy's throat, for such a time as a man might take to ascend those steps to the sea. Then my prisoners woke from me and flung myself on the ground. Then the stairways had been completely destroyed.
He is safe. You cannot follow in time. He's gone. He has triumphed. Der schwarze Stein ist in der Siegeskrone.
There was more in those eyes than any common triumph. They had been hooded like the bird of prey, and now they flamed with a heart's pride. This man was more than a spy. In his foul way, he has been a patriot. As the handcuffs clanked on his wrist, I said my
I
last
hope
words to him.
Franz will bear his triumph well. I ought to tell you that the Ariadne for the last hour has been in our hands.
And that's it. That's the 39 steps. I'm actually kind of disappointed that it ends just like that. I really do. Then again, I have never read the book. Yeah, I've actually never read this book, so I have no idea of how much of this has been adapted from the actual book itself. Now, I might, depending on how this goes, I might actually splice every single video into maybe, parts. I don't know how I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna turn that down a little bit. What happened? God damn it. Okay, it looks like I just skipped it. So it doesn't really matter. But, regardless though, this was actually pretty good. For a visual novel and an adaptation of it. As I said, I have no idea what the actual main thing of it is. Again, I did like it in itself. I really did. I am kind of disappointed at the ending there. As they pretty much didn't really say much of anything, but my assumption is that he did get arrested. But that's the only thing I can think of. Other than that, I did actually enjoy what this was. Wow, really? 3 hours? Must have been looking for like for other stuff here and there, but anyway, I guess for the most part, all I can really say about this is that this was actually pretty good for what it was. I might, if possible, see if we can try to maybe find the original book and read it and see how much of it is adapted from the book into this. But anyway, that being said, I hope you did enjoy. Reading through this visual novel of the 39 Steps. If you want to check it out for yourself, I'll leave a link in the description. If you want to check this out for yourself, I think it's not that expensive, and that's all for anyway. But check it out. I would recommend it if you're looking into astronauts, something like that. Anyway, subscribe if you want to check out other videos I've done in the past, or stay tuned for future videos on the channel. Comment down below what you think of this, or if you have another game or visual novel you want me to check out on the channel, let me know down below. Until next time, stay 20% cooler, and I'll see you in the next video, my friends. Bye bye.